All right, so listen, we said we're going to talk more business, and we're going to do exactly that. Have you ever wondered how much a Super Bowl show costs? Or have you ever wondered why don't an artist get paid for the Super Bowl? Well, Joe Pompliano broke it all down on his Twitter. So I'm just going to read the whole thing because it's that good. Apple is paying the NFL $250 million over 5 years to sponsor the Super Bowl halftime show. But here's the craziest part. Rihanna won't get paid a dime for this year's show, and performers often spend millions of dollars of their own money on production costs. Here's why. The NFL has convinced some of the world's most prominent artists to perform the Super Bowl. Prince, Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, Justin Timberlake, the Rolling Stones, Shakira, Jennifer Lopez, but none of these artists were paid. Here's how the financials work. The NFL signs a $50 million sponsorship deal. Artists get a $10 million to $15 million production budget. This budget covers 2,000 to 3,000 part-time workers, including set design, security, dancers, and marketing. But artists don't get any of the money. In fact, some artists end up spending millions of dollars of their own money on the performance. For example, The Weeknd spent $7 million of his personal cash on his show at Super Bowl 55, and Dr. Dre reportedly spent a similar amount last year. So why do they do that? The simple answer: exposure. The Super Bowl is watched by 200 million people globally. So while brands spend $7 million for 30-second commercials during this year's game, Rihanna will receive a 15-minute commercial for free. This is much more valuable than her performance fee, and the data backs it up. Justin Timberlake saw a 534% increase in music sales after Super Bowl 52. Travis Scott's performance fee went from $500K to $1 million after Super Bowl 53. Jennifer Lopez and Shakira gained 3 million followers after Super Bowl 54. And it's even better when artist time is up with a tour. All right, so listen, I said it's even better when artists time it up with a tour. Well, The Weeknd sold 1 million concert tickets a week after Super Bowl 55. The Rolling Stones set a record with $558 million in revenue for their tour after their show at Super Bowl 40. And StubHub says artists usually see a 50% increase in concert ticket searches after each Super Bowl. Crazy, right? So listen, Rihanna hasn't released an album since 2016 and doesn't have an upcoming tour scheduled, but she still has plenty of ways to make money. For example, Apple TV is paying her several $1 million for a documentary about her Super Bowl performance. But not everyone is as fortunate. The NFL previously asked professional dancers to volunteer during the halftime Super Bowl. The dancers were required to attend 72 hours of rehearsal across 9 days leading up to the Super Bowl. But after a leaked contract went viral last year, the NFL now pays dancers $15 an hour. Still, the bottom line is clear. The NFL makes millions off the Super Bowl halftime show and can afford to pay talent their fee. But given the promise of 200 million viewers and billions of impressions on social media, plenty of artists are willing to do it for free. That's business, baby. So Super Bowl 57 was this past weekend, or should we say the Rihanna concert, whatever you want to call it. There was 115 plus million people watching the Super Bowl. So before we move on to this weekend's upcoming festivities with the NBA All-Star, I want to talk about Rihanna just a little bit. What did y'all think of the show? And is there any other event bigger than the Super Bowl annually? I'm talking Coachella, award shows. Like, I want to know all your thoughts, all of them.
Well, it turned into Coachella. Everybody was there for the Rihanna concert. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I don't know about you guys.
I loved it too. I thought it was good. I was very shocked by her announcement.
Yes.
I think that the first 3 songs was me and everybody in the house trying to figure out, was she or was she not pregnant? I said,
she's got a little bit of baby fat. I was like, oh, she's all natural. She looks good. I like it.
Sam was over there doing body positivity. She's like, she looks
Rihanna
great.
Can
She
do
doesn't
no
have
wrong.
to be in a rush to get back in shape. She was like,
I'm like, I like the body positivity.
The first thing I saw was that. I was like, man, I wanted to be the first person to tweet something out because of the show account. I'm like, ooh, is she pregnant though? Because that's the worst mistake to make in the world.
Yes,
Oh,
definitely.
And a lot of
Definitely.
people were waiting
Good
on her
call, Juju.
cameos to see like who is she going to bring out, because she alluded that she was going to bring out someone, or there was going to be a guest, a surprise guest, and
It
she
was.
And we was,
It was the baby
It was. We just couldn't see it.
and boy were we surprised. ASAP Rocky living up to his name, ASAP baby. Okay,
Man, like
That
literally.
boy is fertile, Lord help us, Jesus.
I like that she didn't bring out anybody. I thought it was iconic all around. Like
Yeah.
she was already an icon before, but like I feel like she's officially crossed into that icon status. I don't think there's any bigger stage than the Super Bowl halftime show. And this year was the first year that we saw it with the Apple Music, as we know. Before it was Pepsi, the Pepsi halftime show. But I feel like it definitely lived up to the expectation for me.
Rihanna shut it down. And honestly, the thing that I noticed too was that she played hit after hit after hit. And then when
Man,
I
she
tweeted
has
out,
hits.
I was like, what songs did y'all want her to play? And when I saw all the tweets that people were saying that they're mad she didn't even do, I'm like, yo, Rihanna got a catalog on her that is crazy.
Right.
But then it brings me to the whole idea of the Super Bowl, right?
Wait. Before we go, we got to talk about how she bought the Fenty line.
Come on,
Yeah, I feel like I
Looks
gotta have
good,
mine now.
looks good. Got hers right there.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? The only thing I got right
It
here
was
is my Kate
perfect.
Cruz, you know what I'm saying? But I love a good cameo of your product. She did it in a dope way. Snooker Booker, come on,
right.
rep
Looking
them
at her,
both.
like-
It's a family business. I was really sitting and watching, and I'm like, there's really nothing bigger than they have the most iconic of superstars that perform for free because of publicity. There's no other event. What other event do you know that's bigger than the Super Bowl that could get people like Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Prince?
And they don't get paid.
I got one for
Yeah, I
you.
mean,
What
they
is
got
it?
paid through advertisement.
Yeah.
Gucci Man versus Jeezy versus
Versus,
the whole world watching that guy.
No, you're right. You're
But
right.
do you think that
But the
Michael
fact that-
Jackson will be on Versus and Beyonce will be on Versus?
Hey, somebody lay down the gauntlet. You feel me? Nobody in challenge this
Hey,
shit.
you're right. You're
You
right.
feel me?
Maybe. I'm
But
not
look,
saying
the
they
fact
won't.
that we're still talking about the performance and not the actual teams involved, I think that says a lot about the whole performance aspect of the Super Bowl. We still haven't even mentioned the actual winners, which were the Chiefs. You know, shouts to Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. But that is crazy that the first topic of discussion is the performance, is the Rihanna halftime show. So I think is the biggest stage. I don't know. I mean, I know Versus is pretty up there too, though.
So Versus doesn't pay for their talent. I didn't know that.
I think they do get. They get paid. They get paid.
Well, Juju,
For
that's the whole point.
I know. I'm a
So
joker.
is there any other event that's big enough to garner this type of talent or these type of views to get people like Prince, J-Lo, Rihanna, Beyonce, Michael Jackson to perform for free $99?
But I just wanted to go back to the Rihanna conversation real quick. I'm from the BB generation, the baby boomers.
Hello.
And,
Okay, talk your talk, boomers.
I like, I like Rihanna. I like her products. I like her songs and everything. But I just don't think it was the best one ever. Now, if you want to compare recently, I kind of like last year's hip hop one a little better than I did Rihanna's. I think it was a little bit more
Yeah, I feel you,
popping.
sis.
I figured it was a little
I
bit
feel
more
you.
popping than that one was. But anyway.
But that's because everybody wanted Rihanna to come out there and toot the boot and drop it like it's
Nah.
hot. They wanted her to dance across the stage, and she
Yes.
said, "I'm a little too pregnant for that,
Look,
but I'll
Snoop,
still give you a little something to show, a little show." But
Snoop said it wasn't Zaza. It was not Zaza. You feel me? I feel it.
I mean, I think she definitely, people were expecting her to dance more to your point, Cole. And I think that people were, they were expecting a larger than life, which I don't know. I thought it was pretty up there just because, I mean, she didn't have to dance that much. She was, I just felt like it was just kind of boss, just the whole thing was just boss energy, how she was fully covered up the whole time. She didn't really even show any skin really. And she didn't even have to dance for it to be, I think, to the level that it was.
The way it was shot, she was
Yeah.
doing powerful stuff. Honestly, I thought the dancers were the MVPs. Them dancers
Yes, the
was turned
dancers.
up. But to that point that you're making, Snook, Eb, which everybody knows my homie Eb Jones, Eb the celeb on social media. I asked the question, how we feeling about the halftime performance by Rihanna? And Eb gonna say, not mad at it at all, but I do wish she wasn't preggo. After a 7-year hiatus, I needed her rolling on the ground and pee popping on a handstand.
No, see, this is not even diving him.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I tweeted before the concert even started that I don't care what Rihanna gets up there and does. I love it already. I just made that's my feelings. I didn't care what she went up there and did. I was going to love it. Juju?
I like the fact that she did it alone, like, because that's what you don't see people do too. You see most people rely on, like, oh, I'm gonna bring out Adam Levine or I'm gonna bring out 50 Cent. I like that she did all her hits, showed the world, like, look, man, these hits you can't argue now one on. You feel me?
Or
and
Lil Wayne.
And
that would have been
I'm
something.
pregnant. Hey, you talking about?
I thought it was so
And
iconic.
I'm in the middle of the air. You feel me?
Yes.
I think it was fire. Now, it wasn't better than a lot of other ones, but I think this was fire than what it was worth. You feel
I agree,
me?
Juju.
Yeah, I mean, Prince and Beyonce is hard to top those two. Just the two off the top of my mind.
Yeah.
Two of the best performances for the halftime show ever.
So, Juju, you had some other thoughts involving the Super Bowl too, right?
Hell yeah, man. Did y'all see where they had Brittany Griner and her wife sitting? I think they could tell when it was about to rain before everybody else. They was in the damn nosebleeds. Sis just came back from Russian boot camps. All that, they got her sitting way up there. Meanwhile, they had DeMar Hamlin in the middle of the field. You know what I mean? Salute to DeMar. But these stories...
They should salute to Brittany, to BG too. She just came from Russia, was in prison over there.
Yeah, it's a sideline pass or something. Like, y'all got us sitting up there with Fly Eagles Fly, the literal Eagles.
I like to hear that, especially coming from a guy like who's a fan of the WNBA. I really like to hear that coming from you, just because sometimes I feel like certain oversights can happen, but the fans can clearly see it.
I like the point that Juju's bringing up, to the point of that. Yeah, let's start to honor our WNBA players and our female athletes the same way we honor everyone else, because what she has been through, she's handling it so well that I think we almost forget what she's been through because of how well she's handling it. She's smiling. She looks happy. Everything is great. And we almost, it seems like, take it for granted. But I do like that point you bring up, Juju.
Right, exactly. While she was in jail in Russia, which is bananas to say that out loud. When she was in Russia in prison, you had people over here always arguing with each other, saying, she shouldn't have had the vape. Well, she shouldn't have did this. Or we should have traded them for the Patriot. We should have did this. And we got them people sitting and able to access her. We got them people on the next row of her. I don't even think they should be able to access sis like that.
Who knows? People can attack her, God forbid, and it needs to, I don't know, I just feel like somebody, to your point, Juju, who came from that situation that she came from. There are a lot of opinions, a lot of people that might not like even just the situation at hand in general. And so that's, you got to watch out for things like that too. The WNBA or even other women's sports in general, they might not even think that fans are looking at that kind of, those kinds of things, like where are they sitting and things like that. But also to your point, what you were saying about everybody having different opinions, people were definitely even split on the decision that was made to even bring her home. So that alone is a security issue on having her just so easily accessible to the public.
I was going to say hats off to Juju from the male population, because I find that women do not support women in their own sports. And so when a man would support in a male sport would support a woman athlete, that's saying something, because we need more males to do that, because women, we find that they have lower attendance rates at female events than men do. I think I'm accurate in saying that. So anyway, hats off to you, Juju, because it will take a lot of men like you to change the culture there.
Thank you, Snook. Hats off to you.
These big events and even little things like that, now you can see how there's layers. When you first saw the pictures, you might not have thought anything of it, But then to hear how Juju broke it down, then it's like, oh yeah, that does make sense. It's also a conversation that continues on for the WNBA season and why the Phoenix Mercury may have to fly a private flight. So that conversation is a large conversation. And there's also another big event coming up this upcoming weekend. And we have Team LeBron going against Team Giannis, and the teams will be chosen blacktop style. And if you don't know what blacktop style is, think back in the day in the playground where people had to choose their team one by one, where you point at them like, and you're just like, yeah, you're on my team.
And why I gotta be blacktop? Why I gotta be blacktop, sister?
I can't be white top.
Well, that's what's going to happen this weekend at the NBA All-Star Draft. So we saw last year there were jokes flying all around at James Harden's expense. So what do we anticipate happening this year? Last year was virtual and they did this. This year they going to be doing is standing looking at each other. What's about to happen? And just so people know, these are the all-stars of the all-stars. I'm talking Luka Doncic, Ja Morant, Steph Curry, DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Durant, De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Edwards. I mean, like, these, somebody got to get chosen last.
Kyrie.
He said Kyrie.
Oh,
That's not right. That's just not. That's.
I
just
love
not
Kyrie
right.
Irving. Salute to you, big brother.
Well, I do too. That's just not right.
Do y'all think people already making deals so that they're not the last man standing? I mean, like,
somebody gotta be last.
This is
It
gonna
don't
be
matter how
crazy.
many deals you make. Somebody's gonna be picked last.
But the point is, no one actually really cares about the All-Star game. But do you think they gonna care if they the last one standing there and everybody looking like, all right, man, I'll just take you? I mean, come on now, Snook. This ain't no everybody
Save
gets
the
a
best
trophy.
for last. That's what my thing would be. You know.
Snook said she gonna
I
put it
love
around.
this
You
mind.
always spin it positively, so you
Yeah,
just,
I love
say the
that
best
optimism.
for last.
You can say, Ma, you can say all that you want. It don't matter what school you done went to, elementary, high, college,
You know,
and
that's what I
pros.
told you
Nobody
all,
wants to
remember?
be last picked.
You see,
That's
y'all,
just- I
y'all
don't
can
matter.
get a live look into why I'm such a positive person, all right? Like, y'all listening to
I love that.
the
She
source
spins it
live
around to
because
work for you. I
This
like
is
that.
why, look, these is rose-colored lenses. This is why I have a vision of the world the way I do, where I really do think that there's hope for everything.
When we played the flag football game, who got chosen last?
Cole,
I did.
I did not know that.
I didn't know we had a live last pick here on the show, so I wanna interview you, Cole. We gotta interview Cole because we gotta get ready for this weekend's NBA All-Star Draft. Somebody gonna get chosen last, all right? And so do you really believe, I'm talking to Nicole Young, the last pick of the flag football, Muchos Montgomery's annual flag football game? Nicole Young was chosen last. Nicole, do you believe that if you're not first, you're last?
It was not fun. Because first of all, my children were in attendance. That was a problem. I had a child that didn't even want to pick his own mother on the team. So he was on the other team. So I kind of felt like, you know what? Okay, I got y'all. So I feel like it is a horrible, and you're right. The person they pick last might be the best. It might be the best for last.
Come on,
didn't
Cole.
know.
Let's just
Didn't
talk.
know.
Like the 49ers
But I'm gonna
quarterback.
tell you right now,
Oh.
it ticked me off. I was like, "Oh, y'all got something coming now, because y'all didn't pick, y'all. You don't think I can do it? Oh, okay, I got you.
They just
I got
didn't
you.
know.
Cole, I
Yeah.
have another question.
Oh,
As
my
the picks
goodness.
started to go and you started to realize, oh, there's only a couple of us left, what was going through your mind at
I
that
know.
time?
I know they ain't gonna wait and put me last. I know they're not gonna pick me last. They picked me over the third and the fourth grader.
I don't want to get on my daughter, but we had another competition at the beach one time.
We just gonna bring it all up.
Okay, so Snook, what happened at the beach? Because listen, our family, let me just set the table for y'all. When we go on vacations, our family is a very athletic family. We played every sport known to man.
Yes.
Football, basketball, we ran track, we got soccer athletes on our so whenever we come together, we have the family Olympics to see who is the greatest athlete of these Montgomerys right here. And so sometimes it's unfortunate because Cole, we line them up. Women, one group.
Now, if you gonna
men,
tell it
the other
right.
Group. Okay,
If you gonna tell it right.
What happened then?
Because I said I had one good race. I said I have one good one. Listen, I'm not in shape. I have one good race in me.
And what happened?
and somebody wanted to race 2 and 3 times.
Okay, so I false started. So I'm gonna tell the truth. So okay, I false started.
Thank you.
This ain't the Olympics. So when somebody false starts, we line that thing back up there. And Cole acted like that little bitty false
No.
start.
It wasn't a little bitty false start. This was the 3rd time we ran.
Anyway, we got the video too of the
we
race.
got the video.
Too.
We got the video. But I'm just saying
All right.
that it was not the first race.
We
said,
had a
I don't
couple
have
false
another
starts.
race in
Okay,
me.
so Cole wants me to do the PSA that we had a couple false starts, right? Sam's watching. She don't even want to get up in this thing because she knew it was about to get vicious. And so we line it up. We have somebody standing at the finish line. We have somebody standing at the beginning line. On your mark, we had somebody calling it up, get set. Bow, boy. So we out the gates. You know what I'm saying? I had a slow start, but my niece, Pooh Bear, that was the real race. Everybody knew that from jump. Me and Pooh Bear was the real race. Pooh Bear get off the gates. She out there fast, right? I didn't even get to see Cole, so I'm going to have to let Cole tell it from her perspective, but I'm going to let y'all finish. But y'all know who won the race, baby. And I retired after that. I'm telling you right now, I had to retire. But I think somebody came in last again. Now, Cole, this brings us back to you.
Yes, I came in last, and I knew I was in trouble when I saw Breezy, who was probably about 5 years old, going past me. No, she passed me. She passed me. She went right on past me. And so I was like, Juju, it ain't funny, but I'm telling you. And I was like, yeah, I knew it was in trouble. I looked up and the 5-year-old, she scooted on past me. I said, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. That brings me to this. So then everybody's like, well, Cole was last on the beach, but they didn't know I had been in the gym.
So Cole went and worked out. After that moment, this is the point I wanted to get to. Whatever happens at the NBA All-Star Draft, whoever that last pick is, I honestly think that that's going to do something for their next season. Mark my words. Imagine that you're one of these guys. I'm talking about you're already an all-star, so you're already in the best of the best pool. You got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Paul George. You got these guys, Tyrese Halliburton, Drew Holiday. Now think about these guys. You're already in a group that is the best of the best of the best. Yeah. Now, what happens when you're the last of the best?
But I don't think LeBron will let Kyrie get all the way to the end without picking him. So it's going to be Kyrie or James Harden last pick again. It's going to be hilarious.
I'm going James Harden. I would never go with Kyrie.
Okay, I mean, but y'all do realize that there's first-timers, Drew Holiday, Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, Domantas Sabonis. These names might not even be ringing a bell to the casual fan.
LeBron they're gonna be trying to pick them. Like Darius Garland got picked high last year because they think they know the brotherhood.
May the odds be ever in the favor of all the All-Stars. We know that somebody has to be last, but hey, there is that saying, if you're not first, you're last. All right, so listen, we have Rachel Galligan joining us right now. She's a part of the women's basketball media as a whole. A lot of people think you drop a lot of the bombs as a sense of like Woj bomb and different things of that nature. So welcome to the show, first of all, Rachel.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you. How are you?
I'm good. Listen, it's busy times, and you even tweeted that I feel for Woj and Shams on days like today. But then I also remember they actually get paid a lot of money to do this. What a luxury. So I'm curious, how are you feeling right now? Because it's still WNBA free agency. Things are still happening. How are you feeling? Is it a busy time still?
It's finally to a point where I feel like I can breathe a little bit. It's such an interesting space to be in. I never really thought I'd be doing this. I think, oh God, what was this, year 5 or year 6? I don't know. So it just kind of happened completely organically and random just because of my background in the game and from coaching. And so it learned a lot over these few years. But yeah, this year was... It just adds the pressure every single year and the stress of it. But at the same time, it's fun because now we're at a point where the fans are, they're expecting it. They want that. And I think the players really start to feed into it. Look at Stewie and her emojis. There's this buildup in free agency that I think, we didn't see 5 or 6 years ago. And I love it. It's such a fun time of the year. I personally am exhausted. But I'm kind of now at this point, okay, it's slowing down. I think there's a couple maybe, final moves or signings that still need to take place, but I'm finally thankful to kind of take a breath.
I love that. So it's to as much as you can disclose, because I'm curious, how does someone become an insider? Because that's basically what you become. And then on your busiest days, what are the type of things that are happening? Like, walk us through a day in the life.
The day in the life, I mean, there's a lot of preparation going into it. And again, I've learned every single year. I had no idea what I was doing when I first dropped my first, I guess, bomb, if you will. It just started with me because I coached. I coached collegiately. So I had a lot of connections, just friends who coached in the league and people who played in the league. And it kind of started with the Liz Cambage wanting out of Dallas. I can't remember how many years ago. I mean, like I said, 5 or 6 years ago. And then from there, it kind of became a thing where I had some people around me like, hey, pay attention to Woj and Shams and what we're seeing on the NBA side, what these guys are doing. And then, just different agents that I have relationships with just outside of this, it really comes down to relationships. And anyone who really knows me knows my business is based around women's basketball. I run events in the summertime. This is such a small fraction of what I do. Honestly, it's just kind of a hobby because like, as you started out with, you don't really get paid for this. At least we haven't yet. So I really got fortunate enough just from my relationships, being in the game, playing, coaching, and those have changed over the years. I've had to cultivate more to remain in this area and continue to know the league the way I have. But, I have to give a shout out to my kind of partner in this, Aryeh Schwartz. He's the guy he runs Winsider, founded Winsider. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of this without him. He does a lot of behind the scenes legwork alongside with me. Like I said, I don't do this full time. I have my job, I've got meetings, I've got clients with college coaches that I've got to be meeting with. So him and I tag team a lot of it, reaching out to agents as we're kind of entering this period of time. You kind of have a map, and I've started to get really organized with it where I'll kind of jot down, who are the free agents, who are the restricted free agents, what do I think could happen? And then you just kind of start having conversations. You kind of start connecting the dots. I've gotten a lot smarter when it comes to how this all works. At first, it was kind of like, I don't even know the difference between, being a free agent and a restricted free agent. Now it's kind of like, okay, I'm able to think ahead 4 or 5 steps. So, it's constantly a learning process, but I will say the last couple of weeks, it's tough to even take a shower.
That's what I was going to say. Like, when do you, because you could fall asleep and then find out news drops. So what is that like? Your phone is constantly on ringer. Like, what is that like?
Kind of. I will say there was one that came out. It was Alicia Clark, and I knew about it. And I was kind of waiting. Like, I was just kind of like waiting to kind of like when that right time was going to be, when everybody was going to be okay. I stepped away from my phone for like 6 minutes. I come back. I literally just took the dog out. I came back and it was out. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is unbelievable. You don't really know when, that moment is going to come. You might get the okay from an agent, or you might get the okay from, whatever your source might end up being. Or now it's super competitive. You might, you might have Christina or Howard Magdal. Shout out to them. They do phenomenal work. You might have ESPN, who's now starting to kind of get into it. So, I, by nature, am a competitor.
Let's go.
I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for growth. That's just who I am as a former player myself. So, I love it. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, I don't sleep a lot. I'll be up at 3 a.m. just kind of like figuring out, I'm in mountain time. So everything's happening on the East Coast, by 8 a.m. It's 6 a.m. here. So it's freaking crazy. I'm like, why do I do this? This is crazy.
No, I love that. Shouts to everyone you named. Shouts to Howard. Shouts to Christina. And I love that you almost formed a partnership. Did you guys decide like, all right, you're going to release that one? And then you said you knew the Alicia news, but you didn't release it. So why, like, when do you hold on to the news? When do you let the news go? Like, cause isn't it being first to the story kind of the competitive aspect of it?
It is. I think everyone has their own metric that they probably operate on. I think for me, I can only speak for myself in it. I always try to cross-check. I probably overly check. I don't want to burn a bridge. I don't want to, what I don't want to see, and I know it happens, we see it in the NBA, is a player find out on social media. So I'm always trying to make sure everybody's okay. Are you okay? Are they okay? Is this okay? It's not always realistic. a lot of the time. So for me, again, I go back to those relationships, whatever that relationship might be with that given source, making sure they're okay with what I'm getting ready to do. And if they're not, like I've drawn that line, like I'm just not going to do it. Those relationships are more important to me than being the first or any sort of clout that might be. So the Alicia Clark thing, I was just kind of waiting. Like I was just like, you know,
you were waiting on someone else to drop the news?
Not really. I mean, I knew it was coming out. I thought it was going to be the next morning, and then it happened faster. So that one I just got beat on fair and square.
Wow. I love that. Honestly, though, I love that you said that you're competitive and there is a competitive space building, because that only helps women's basketball. That only helps women's sports, because the more people, I mean, look, we're coming off of the NBA trade deadline where I've never seen a trade deadline like this one. It was like must-see TV. They're creating actual shows to have the NBA deadline so that they're finishing right at the end of the deadline to catch every single move that happens. And so I love that there's a group that's now trying to break the news and that there's interest, because when there's interest, there's going to be more and more interest. And when you feed people information, usually they want more. And so I'm curious, from on the WNBA side, we talked about NBA trade deadline and free agency, but let's discuss that a little bit. What stood out to you this year in the WNBA free agency?
Oh my God. I mean, I knew it was going to be crazy. I knew there was a really good chance we were going to enter into this super team era.
So how did you know that?
I mean,
as much as you could disclose.
Well, obviously there was a lot of conversation about Stewie leaving Seattle and going to New York.
Right.
You know, you can put the pieces together with Courtney Vandersloot and Allie Quigley, where Allie was at this point in her career. I really felt like there were pieces of Connecticut that were going to fall apart. I knew that probably really early on, even in Kurt Miller leaving. You felt like that franchise was going to dismantle. Chicago, I mean, it was just a matter of time before that core kind of fell apart. I mean, it was inevitable. So it really felt like, man, are they really going to try and run this back one more year? That kind of felt like that's what last year was. So the big hang up, I did not anticipate Candace going to Las Vegas. I wasn't sure what was going to happen there. I really didn't know. You know, I was like everybody else. What is this going to end up looking like? So, I mean, when Candace was going through the process and there were rumblings and things being said, I think that, you know, you started to see like, man, her ears are kind of perked up to this idea. And this really could happen. You know, I mean, she took that meeting and had that meeting, and clearly the pitch that Vegas had, you know, I mean, and I think she did a phenomenal job of explaining herself on her Instagram post of her reasoning and where she's at with her family and her career. I think it makes complete sense. Props to her. I think it's a great move. So when I knew JJ was out and New York had a chance to really secure that one, then you were like, all right, well, what's going to happen with Stewie? Is Jonathan Kolb really going to pull this off in New York? And then the Candace Las Vegas was kind of like, okay, this is really going to happen. You know, again, you don't know those things until maybe a couple hours before the general population is aware of it. But yeah, you just started to see, you know, through your sources and through what you're hearing that, man, this is really a viable, you know, potential. This has potential.
Wow. Well, we saw now that we have entered the super team era, and it's going to be interesting. You know, like what I love the most is that I'm starting to see conversations about the WNBA be mainstream conversations. So I love to see that the platforms are growing, the conversations are building. So for me, it's exciting. I mean, you know, I'm over here with the Atlanta Dream, so I know we're building. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on us? What we're
love
doing?
It. It was funny. I'm going through, everyone's doing the grades, and it's funny. People started putting grades out last week, and I was like, don't do them yet, guys. Don't do them yet. They're too early, you know. But no, I was actually talking with someone about the Dream before this, and that's a franchise I really, really like to analyze. And again, I'm not saying that just because I'm on here with you. I think that, you know, it's slow and it's steady, slow in a good way, steady, consistent, really calculated growth. You know, it doesn't need to be swinging for the absolute fences. I think Atlanta made huge strides last year in the direction of the franchise, with the ownership, with everything. It kind of went from being like this question mark in the league to now, okay, they've got destination potential. You know, even as small as the in-game environment, you saw that change. So I think that Atlanta made the moves. Dan Padover, huge fan of Dan. I think he's so smart, so meticulous with his moves. He's one of the best GMs in the league. And trust me, that's a conversation that needs to be had. Kind of just where do these GMs stack up against one another? And I'll get pretty candid with my grades this year because I'm pretty into it. But I thought, Atlanta's focused on the long term. You've got Ryan Howard. You've got a really good position in the draft this year. I know, some of the targets there. I mean, the biggest question mark I think is going to be interior depth.
Yep.
But I mean, competitive young core. I like the move of, what was the early one the very first trade?
Alicia Gray.
Yeah, Alicia Gray. I mean, good. That's a huge addition. I mean, love that. Even D-Rob,
Yep.
that trade early on, I thought was a huge piece this team is missing, just a veteran guard that can kind of help bring this young core along. It doesn't need to be a long-term move, but just right now, just give it a year of growth and consistency under Wright. So you're good. You're good.
I appreciate that. And listen, I know you talked about you're going to do your grades, so I want you to come back too as well once you do your grades, and then once you do a breakdown of the GMs, because I'm like a geek when it comes to stats. I don't know if anybody, but I had coaches where I want all the analytics I can have. I want to watch every play of the team that we just played and we're about to play. So whenever you come and break down the GMs, come back here and talk us through it and your thought process, because that would be excelente. I'm excited to hear that. I think the more we cover the sport, the more people will want to know. People don't know what they don't know, but we get this information all the time. I could tell you everything an NBA player has been through in his whole life, the coach, different storylines, what's their fashion sense. So we want to be doing that here and covering more women's sports. So thank you for joining us on Montgomery Co, Rachel.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's all we have for today. But before I go, the WNBA announced that 25 games from Athletes Unlimited will be streamed on the WNBA League Pass, and the remaining games will be played on CBS Sports. Now, just so everyone's aware, we will be cheering on the Atlanta Dream's very own Naz Hillman and Alicia Gray this season, y'all, okay? So before they join our team, they're going to be on that team, we're going to cheer on that team, and then cheer on this team. All right? By the way, hearing Rachel talk about the grind made me think about hoop life and how it's always been for the love of the game. So speaking of that, don't forget to tap in tomorrow to hear my conversation with Allyson Felix. Dedication is an understatement with her. It's a generational thing. We'll see y'all next week.